Okay. So, you know how we were talking about unsettling cases?
Yeah.
And you mentioned wanting to go back to one in particular. Well, let's do this. Let's revisit Eugene Victor Tooms with the episode titled simply Tooms. You know, it's really interesting how this episode, it's a direct sequel to Squeeze, which is rare for these, standalone, what do they call them, Monster of the Week episodes, right?
Right, yeah. You don't often see a Monster of the Week return for a second episode.
Exactly. Like, why Tooms? What was it about that, that initial encounter that demanded a second chapter? And for this deep dive, you've pulled together, well, everything. We've got summaries of the episode, laying out the story, behind-the-scenes stuff about how it was all put together, and even how the critics reacted to it all. So, our mission here is to kind of piece it all together. Why this story? Why does it stick with us? Why does it still give us the creeps?
Well, I think it's because Tooms, he represents more than just your average, monster. It's not just about the physical horror, right? It's that idea that evil can keep coming back, and that sometimes the way we normally deal with things, the rules and all that, it just doesn't work on something like that.
It's like he's exploiting the cracks in our system.
Exactly. Like, what is justice when you're dealing with something that's basically beyond what we understand as human?
Yeah, no, that's a good point. It's definitely makes you think. So before we get into, all the details of Tooms, let's just quickly recap Squeeze, right? For anyone who maybe needs a refresher.
Okay.
So Eugene Victor Tooms, this guy, he can contort his body, right? Like into these crazy impossible shapes.
Yeah.
Squeeze into tiny spaces, and he needs human livers, 5 of them, to hibernate for like 30 years. It's a whole thing.
A very specific diet.
Yeah, exactly. And Mulder and Scully, they encounter him, obviously. And by the end of Squeeze, they catch him. They put him away.
Right, but that's exactly where Tooms picks up, and that's where the real unease starts, I think.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Because Tooms, it starts off with this idea, this question of, okay, you've caught this thing. How do you even categorize him?
Right.
But now what? How do you hold on to something that seems completely uncontainable?
You got it. And the episode jumps right into it with this hearing, a commitment review. Basically, they're deciding if Tooms should be released.
Which is just like, from the get-go, just sets up this tension, like, can our system, our laws, our logic even, can it handle something like Tooms?
And I think it's interesting that Tooms also introduces us to a very important character, Walter Skinner.
Yeah, it's his first appearance.
And he comes in with the cigarette smoking man.
It's a cigarette smoking man. And they meet with Scully. It's a very formal meeting. You can feel the power dynamic there.
And it's not a, welcome to the team kind of vibe.
No.
Skinner, he immediately questions how Mulder and Scully do things, their methods. He wants them to stick to the rules. By the book.
Which we know that's not exactly their style.
Not at all. And the cigarette smoking man, he's just there silently watching. It just adds to that whole feeling of like there are these bigger forces at play that Mulder and Scully are up against.
Totally. It's like this underlying threat, like you're being watched. Okay, so we're at this hearing for Tooms' release, right? And his psychologist, this Dr. Monte.
Oh, Dr. Monte.
He actually testifies that Tooms is ready to go back into society.
Can you imagine?
It's mind-blowing. Like, this is a guy who... Anyways, then Mulder, he presents all this evidence, right, about Tooms' killing sprees, going back decades, his weird physiology.
Woman's bile.
The bile, yeah. And the board, they just dismiss it. They release Tooms to live with this older couple.
With the condition that he continues therapy with Dr. Monte.
Right. And Mulder is, well, understandably not happy about it. He says he's going to keep an eye on Tooms. So while Mulder's doing his, surveillance thing, Scully, she dives into Tooms' past. She goes to see this retired detective, Frank Briggs, who investigated Tooms back in the day.
Yeah, Briggs. And he tells her about this victim from Tooms' 1933 spree who disappeared, vanished without a trace.
And this is where it gets really interesting, because Briggs, he takes Scully to this old chemical plant where they find a skeleton encased in concrete.
Wow.
It's like, they're digging up the past, literally. And later, they confirmed that the skeleton is that missing victim from 1933. And get this, they find bite marks on the bones that match Tooms.
So it's like Scully is putting together this puzzle piece by piece.
Exactly. So meanwhile, Mulder is trying to track Tooms, even confronts him at one point, but then Tooms, he frames Mulder for assault.
Oh yeah, that's a messed up part.
It is. Tooms, he hides in Mulder's car, gets into his apartment, hurts himself, makes it look like Mulder did it.
So clever, yet so creepy.
Right. And now Mulder's being questioned by the police, and Skinner, he's like, stay away from Tooms.
Putting Mulder in a really tough spot.
Totally. But Tooms still needs that last liver, right? To complete his cycle.
Right. And this leads to Dr. Monty. Well, he goes to visit Tooms at his halfway house.
Oh, okay.
It doesn't end well for him.
No, it doesn't. Mulder and Scully, they find Monty dead. And they realize Tooms has gotten his final liver. Now things are really urgent. They have to stop him.
Absolutely.
So they go to Tooms' old apartment building, but it's gone.
Gone.
It's been demolished. And in its place is a shopping mall.
Wow, that's quite the image.
It is. It's like this symbol of, I don't know, progress, built on top of something so dark.
Yeah.
And it's under this mall, under an escalator, that Mulder finds Tooms' lair, this nest made of newspaper and bile.
The bile.
Yeah. So Tooms, he comes out and he's changed. He's like transformed, and there's this chase, and Mulder ends up luring Tooms back to the escalator.
Yeah.
And, well, let's just say the escalator does its job.
It's a pretty gruesome ending.
It is, but also kind of fitting. Afterwards, we see Skinner reading Scully's report, and he has this little exchange with the cigarette-smoking man. And it's all very cryptic, like, what are they planning?
Very mysterious.
And then the episode ends on this shot of Mulder looking at a caterpillar's cocoon. And he says something about change coming to the X-Files. It's a really great, symbolic ending.
Yeah, it definitely leaves you thinking. So now that we've gone through the episode, what do you say we dig into some of the behind-the-scenes stuff?
Ooh, yes. Because knowing how things came together, those little details, it adds so much to the story,
Absolutely. It's like getting a peek behind the curtain.
Exactly. So with Tooms, we know that the idea for bringing him back came from the writer, Glenn Morgan. And get this, he got the idea from seeing men working on an open escalator in a mall around Christmas time.
Really? Just from that?
Yeah. It's amazing how something so ordinary can spark such a creepy idea, right?
It's like the horror was hiding in plain sight.
Totally. Now, writing a sequel, it presented some unique challenges because they hadn't really done that before on the X-Files, bring back a monster of the week.
Right.
So they had to figure out, okay, how do we move the story forward for people who saw Squeeze? Mm-hmm. But also, how do we catch up anyone who didn't see it?
It's a tough balance to strike.
It is. And they decided to use that courtroom scene, at the beginning to kind of fill in the backstory.
That's smart. It gives new viewers the information they need without, stopping the story to explain everything.
Exactly. Now, the director for this episode was David Nutter. And apparently, there were some issues with the direction of Squeeze. So bringing Nutter back for Tooms, it was like a chance to kind of do it right, get those scares they originally wanted.
Yeah, I mean, the director can really make or break a horror episode, right? The tone, the atmosphere, it's so important.
Absolutely. And then there's Doug Hutchison, who plays Tooms. Talk about commitment to a role. He actually chose to be naked for that final escalator scene.
Wow, that's intense.
It is. Even Chris Carter, the creator of the show, said it was a little uncomfortable, but that it added to the, the horror of it all. Oh, and speaking of creepy visuals, did you know that Tooms' bile, that stuff that coated him and his nest, it was actually yellow piping gel?
What? Really?
Yeah, piping gel. Apparently it was super sticky and the actress hated it. But it looked so real, so gross.
That's amazing. It's like sometimes the simplest things create the best effects. Oh, and you know what else is cool? The story of Tooms framing Mulder, it was actually inspired by the movie Dirty Harry.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's like they took this classic crime thriller element and worked it into the X-Files world.
I love that. Yeah. Those little nods to other things. Okay, so this one is good. So, Assistant Director Skinner, Mitch Pileggi. Well, he actually auditioned for a few other roles on the show before they cast him as Skinner.
Really?
Yeah. And when he went in for this Skinner audition, he was in a bad mood and he had let his hair grow out a bit. And that's exactly what they wanted for Skinner, that kind of gruff, intense energy. It's funny how things work out like that.
It really is. Sometimes the best casting choices are the unexpected ones. Okay, this next one is pretty wild. So that final scene in the mall.
Yeah.
They filmed it in an actual working mall in Vancouver.
No way.
Can you imagine trying to film something like that with all the special effects, the fake blood and everything?
And a real escalator.
Right. It must have been chaos. Oh, and you know what else happened in this episode? The cigarette-smoking man, he finally speaks.
It's true. He had a line.
Up until this point, he was just this silent, menacing figure. Chris Carter, the show's creator, said he thought it made the character even scarier.
Oh, totally. Like you never knew what he was thinking. But then, boom, He speaks.
And it's William B. Davis, the actor who plays him. He just delivers it so perfectly. So I think it's safe to say that Tooms is a pretty special episode.
It is. It's definitely a fan favorite.
And you know what else? Chris Carter, he said that Eugene Tooms is one of his favorite monsters from the show.
Which, I mean, that says something, right?
Absolutely. It shows just how effective Tooms is as a villain and how well they crafted both Squeeze and Tooms to be these truly memorable episodes. Oh, and one last thing. Tooms. It actually provides a sense of closure that you don't often get in the X-Files.
Right. Like Tooms is dead. For real this time.
Exactly. It's not often that they definitively defeat a monster on the show.
Yeah. It's usually more ambiguous, you know? Like they think they've won, but...
But there's always that lingering doubt.
Exactly. So, as we come to the end of this deep dive into Tooms, what stands out to you the most?
Well, I think Tooms does an incredible job of building on the tension and the fear that they set up in Squeeze. It's not just a rehash, you know, it expands the story. It introduces us to Skinner, who becomes a really important character. And it really shows us how strong the bond between Mulder and Scully is becoming. They trust each other. They rely on each other.
Absolutely. And for you, our listener, I hope this deep dive has given you a little more insight into Tooms, you know?
Like more than you'd get just from watching the episode.
Right, like all those behind-the-scenes tidbits.
Why and the how of it all.
Exactly. So, to leave you with something to think about, why do you think we like revisiting our nightmares? Why are we drawn to stories like Tooms? Is it because when we face a fear we already know, it's somehow less scary than facing the unknown? Or maybe, think about this, sometimes a seemingly minor character, like Skinner in this episode, can end up having a huge impact on a story.
You never know who's going to end up being a key player.
Right. You just never know.